Welcome to Mine Explorers, episode 48, where we have a fantastic guest. We're joined by John Weiss, who's spent over 3 decades in mining consulting with John T. Boyd Company. Welcome, John.
Hello, everybody.
Well, it's very exciting having you on the show. John and I sat on a panel together at America's Coal Revolution in Pittsburgh this last year, I guess now. I was going to say earlier this year, but now it was last year, and we discussed critical minerals, and we had a fantastic panel, but we definitely could have spent another couple hours talking about all the different components of mining and being a mining consultant and all the adventures. And so I definitely wanted to get John back on the show and talk about his experience and his career and all the exciting things he's been up to. So really excited to have you on the show, John.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It'll be fun. I'm sure we'll have a few odds and ends that people have heard before, and we'll probably come up with one or two nuances that they haven't.
Yep, I'm sure. I'm sure. So how did you get into mining? That's always our first question.
Yeah. Um, you know, my dad was sixth or seventh generation of Frederick Weiss is ahead of him. Um, his father and his father's father worked in coal mines in central Pennsylvania.
Wow.
My dad's dad worked in the mine for 45 years and died at the age of 56. So
Mm.
do the math.
Yeah.
I wouldn't send an 11-year-old boy in a coal mine, but this we're talking about a long time ago.
Yeah.
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 So his grandfather worked in coal mines. His father worked in coal mines. My dad's dad worked in coal mines till he was drafted and ended up in Korea, and then he became an engineer after that. And my mother's parents came over from Poland. And even though I have a German last name, I'm three-fourths Polish.
Hmm.
Uh, I her father came over at the age of 19 years old and worked in coal mines until he was in his early 60s, and he lived another couple years, and I they were both dead before I met them. But
Yeah.
I grew up in a mining community in central Pennsylvania. um, I probably was in 15 or 20 or 25 underground mines, none of them legally, before I was out of high school. I mean, just
Wow.
riding around in the old, and we just called them the strippings. I mean, it was the
Yeah.
areas where they'd been deep mined and then
Wow.
stripped, and then there were just exposed, unreclaimed outcrops that went for miles and miles and miles and miles. That's what I was in the middle of. I was a good student. I thought I'd get into engineering like my dad. I grew up in a mining community. That's how I ended up in the mining industry.
Wow.
Wow.
And you've traveled far and wide from starting in coal mines.
I started out, I worked underground as a general laborer. Started at age 19 while I was a co-op student going to school, work 6 months, go to school 6 months. And then after graduation, I went to grad school, and then I worked underground at Consolidation Coal Company for 5 years as an industrial engineer, as a safety inspector, and then as an underground foreman, mostly on longwalls, but construction and continuous miners. But since I've been with John T. Boyd Company, I think I've been in 16 different countries, and I know I've been in more than 350 underground mines, probably a couple hundred surface mines of various types, um, hundreds of different plants, um, in Africa, Asia, Europe. I've not been to South America, but
Interesting. Yeah.
a lot of different places. So I've had the good fortune of seeing the world and have somebody pay me to do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's the dream. I think a lot of people get into mining engineering and geology specifically to do that, to spend time outdoors, see different things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it's an
great
exciting
career
part
to
of the
travel.
industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
what a variation in mining, just, narrow underground coal mining to, large
oh,
scale open pit copper porphyry. There's such a variety in
it,
Hmm.
techniques and economics and everything. It's fascinating.
and what I've found over the course of my career, and like I said, I've been with I joined John T. Boyd Company in 1990. And that was 36 years ago. It seems like a blink of an eye, but the perception is most people say when you go to a mine, their perception is you crawl into the little hole under your desk
Yep.
and and like the cave-ins on TV, everything shakes and then some rocks and then
Oh
you
yeah.
brush off the dust and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've done
you
that.
gotta
Yeah.
Yeah.
shake it
Yeah.
off and the perception and one of the first things I try to do, whether I'm working with a financial group, a lender, a lawyer team, a team of potential, you know, partners in some way, shape, or form, I'll often take the property that we're looking at and lay it over wherever the town that they live in.
Hmm.
And it's pretty stunning when you take something and you go meet with investment bankers in New York and you show a line that stretches from Long Island to New Jersey
Yeah.
and north of Central Park and down below Lower Manhattan. And they look at this and they're like, no, that's not possible. I'm talking about like a mine. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, so am I. We're talking about the same thing here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I guess the first thing the average person in the world doesn't grasp is the magnitude of volumes of material and dollars that go into it. I mean,
Hmm.
people don't grasp where the nails in the chair that you're sitting on came from,
Yep.
the metal in their TV set or cell phone. This stuff doesn't just grow on trees. It comes out of the ground from all sorts of locations and all sorts of economic situations.
Yeah, it's
Oh
funny
yeah.
you mentioned that. I did a LinkedIn series and I just saw it. It popped up my annual recap on LinkedIn, and my post that did the best, it got over 100,000 impressions on LinkedIn, was Mines versus Manhattan, where I took Manhattan and I
Yep.
overlaid different mines over it. And I did all open pit, and that gave me a good idea. Underground would be really fascinating, but I did
Oh,
all open pit mines, and it got so many impressions and went so far because people were just blown away. They had no
yep.
idea that there are mines many times larger than Manhattan around the
Hmm.
world, and they just, yeah, it was
It,
really popular, and it went really well. But yeah, it's a great way to give people an idea of the scale of how large they can be.
yeah, it's the like I says, mankind doesn't give any thought that unless it was grown in a field or a forest as wood products or as vegetation or as animal products, we dug it up.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Somebody dug it up.
Yeah.
Whether
And
it's the
all the
paint
all
on,
the tools to do all that other stuff was all made from
yeah,
materials dug
yeah.
up too. Yeah. Yeah, we
Hmm.
talk about like if it's not grown, it's mined, and very little could be grown without mining.
Yeah.
Potash and phosphate and all the tools and modern machinery and everything. I mean, a modern John Deere tractor has about every metal under the sun inside of it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. It goes of yeah, it's lead, zinc, copper.
Yep.
There's probably some gold filament in the sensors, and who knows.
Yep.
Um,
Oh
but yeah,
yeah, they're all
very much the
smart
case.
farming and everything. Yeah, it's all GPS enabled and computer
Yeah.
driven and lidar
Oh, ceramics.
sensors.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The heat exchangers, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all there.
It's exciting. So you've seen a lot of interesting things. Oh, there's so many questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking about like your childhood and exploring old abandoned mines, like any fun stories from that experience that like kind of
You
piqued your
should.
interest of like this is
My
something I
my
might
number
want to
one
do.
takeaway is don't let your kids do that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's not
especially
Fair.
coal
it's
mines.
not a good
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
Um, we it's a long story. My wife and I we own another business unrelated to the mining industry, and about a mile from where our office is an old abandoned underground mine. It got to within 15 feet of the surface.
Mm.
And a woman's dog got outside during the summer last year, and she walked outside looking for a dog and didn't come back in.
Oh
And
no.
turned out there was a sinkhole in her yard, and
oh
she
wow.
fell through the sinkhole and got covered up and wasn't recovered. Well, they recovered her, but I mean, it
Wow.
was way
Oh,
too
how
late.
sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing to do. And one of the reasons why our industry has become so safe is because of the sins of the last 500 years. I
Yep.
mean, Say what you want. People do what they need to do to abide by the rules and regs they're held to.
Yep.
When there were none, that's the way every industry worked, whether it was the chemical industry pumping effluent into the creek,
Yep.
or whether it was the mining industry leaving behind open holes in the ground.
Yep.
Uh, those past actions have brought a lot of headaches upon those of us today trying to do things safely and legally and properly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was informative to teach me that yeah, there's danger, but there's opportunity. There's things that can be done, and there's the industry has come a long way in terms of safety systems and monitoring and high tech stuff, and it just continues to become safer. Comes
Yeah.
at a cost. It comes at a cost. I mean, an economic cost
Oh yeah.
because we have to buy detectors. You have to buy all sorts of different things, but it is the price that we pay to extract the minerals we need out of the ground. And we'll
Yeah.
continue to do that. We will continue to do that.
Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. We talked a little bit about we've talked about some of the older coal mine disasters that led to the creation of Miners' Day and a lot of the early safety regulations. And then we've talked on the show about the Sunshine Silver Mine disaster that led to the formation of MSHA, and then looked at the statistics and how it's affected safety and fatalities in the United States. And while we still have some, and it's always something to work on and improve, when they occur now, they're usually single digits,
Yeah.
and the days of double digit, triple digit fatalities are largely behind us in the United States, which is great. But there's still a lot to be done. But some of the new technologies are pretty amazing. I went to a show. Well, we both went to a show that we spoke at in Austin this year about technology and aggregates. And unfortunately, a lot of the fatalities in the United States still occur in aggregate operations and smaller mines, and so that's a big area for focus. But Caterpillar and Lux Stone have a collaboration where they're deploying autonomous haul trucks and looking
Mm-hmm.
at the safety potential around that and how they set them up is pretty amazing. They were showing the trucks, they can go out and wave a brush, or the wind can blow a brush on the side of the road and the truck will come to a complete halt, make sure everything's clear, and continue. And then the way they can set up all the haul routes and everything and have exclusion zones where it's autonomous only and things like that. It's pretty amazing
Mm-hmm.
how that's deploying. And they're up to that partnership in particular, they're up to about 70-ish% efficiency versus manned crews. And their goal is to eventually get it above 100% where it actually exceeds the efficiency. But it's pretty amazing to look at some of those technologies and how they'll
Yep.
affect safety moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about that, it's very interesting because over the decades, I've seen so many things come in that I've heard people say, this will never work. You can't replace an operator to do this.
Yep.
Lo and behold, we do. By the same token, I've seen so many areas where someone will say, here's an opportunity to get rid of the human element to this, to that, the other thing. And 30 years later, we're finding out people can still do it better. There is a need when there is geology and weather and inconsistency in the material. We don't deal in homogeneous material
Yeah.
most of the time in this
Yeah.
industry. And as a result, there is a need to have human interaction with it very often.
Yep.
Not exclusively, not never, but there will be a balance. And those who are good at finding that balance, I think will have the best economic success as opposed to we got to get rid of all the people or
Mm-hmm.
we got to automate all the trucks or somewhere, we got to quit this automation stuff. It we will continue to enhance it.
Yep.
But I don't know how it'll go. I've never nailed it in looking forward as what I think is going to happen has materialized.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. It's always a lot slower in some ways and a lot faster in others. And
Well, and we did have that conversation at that same show of the mining industry can be very apprehensive to new technologies, and we've seen that in our own, business. I was wondering if you guys have seen that on the John T. Boyd side of just companies just being apprehensive to new ideas and new things.
Absolutely. And, I without bringing anything into the technology or the safety or the anything else with it, the while we are mining and geological consultants, and that's what we have done since 1943, and we continue to do that, the vast majority of our work is related to economics.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's in business. Let's face facts. The whole world is in business. Me, you, the guy who made the Zoom internet, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Mining companies are happy to do what makes the most economic sense. They really are.
Yeah.
Mine workers are happy to do what makes the most economic sense. If someone finds out, you know what, I can make a bigger incentive bonus on production by using this certain technology to meter the flow of material onto a belt or through a plant or whatever and minimize downtime, hey, I'm all for it. Most people are for whatever technologies allow them to economically advance, but we don't know how it will advance. And as a result, there is an element of a guessing game. No matter how much industry analysis you do, no matter how much engineering you do, unknowns materialize.
Yep.
They do. And when people come in and say, well, if we do remote control this, or we do a robotic that, or we can eliminate 10 people who do this, usually that materializes the way they expect it, but there are also consequences they don't expect.
Yeah.
Sometimes to the better, sometimes to the worse. So there will constantly be technological change for the purposes of improving safety, improving product recovery, improving cost performance, and complying with new laws that become, say what you want, every time something bad happens, new laws get shoved down the industry's throat.
Yep.
Sometimes it's human mistakes. Sometimes it's simply I don't want to say an unforeseeable accident, but truly an act of God type of thing that materializes that won't happen again, but someone wants to make a case that will never allow it to happen again.
Yep.
It is interesting how all those things trigger the technologies, the safety, the laws, the enforcement, and everything that goes with it. But really, the application of technology always does come down to the dollar sign. It
Yeah.
really will.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it we see is deploying new technology in mining. Somebody's got to do it first. And you've got to be able to point to a successful pilot program somewhere.
Yep.
And so, there's been a lot of talk about autonomous trucks, and CAT and Komatsu and Volvo, and everybody's trying to develop it and successfully developing it, and deploying it in pockets here and there. So it's exciting to see this Luckstone CAT collaboration. It was exciting to get them to come out and publicly talk about the pros and the cons and the challenges and the future and the outlook. And then they deployed, is it 5? I think 5 trucks.
I think so.
And they're big. They're big,
Yep.
big trucks. And they deployed them at one mine, and then their plan is to slowly start deploying them other places. But it's interesting because of their collaboration, they're able to actually work with CAT, and CAT's there to continue to drive up that efficiency. But the closer it gets to 100, the more rapidly they're going to be deployed. But I think very few companies right now are going to go, I'm going to replace this manned piece of machinery with autonomous, have to set up a whole different mine plan where there's exclusion zones and different haul routes for manned versus unmanned, for a 30%, 40% cut in performance. But the closer that gets to 100, they're going to start to really look at it. But what we've found, and I think it's pretty common across the industry right now, is they struggled at this particular operation to find skilled operators. And so they actually decided to take a risk on the autonomous technology because they had a lack of operators. And so it provided an opportunity. But Yeah, it's gotta. I think on paper, it's exciting and it's novel, and they're willing to spend the money to develop it, which is exciting. But until it's actually more profitable than manned operations, it's not going to really pick up.
I think that's an enormous part of it. The who blinks first part of it comes very much across the industry. Everyone says I'll do it as soon as someone else does it and
Yep.
proves to me it works. No one wants to be the guinea pig.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, by the same token, I do think me, personally, I think many of the technology pursuits of autonomous mining machinery and things like that, I think a lot of that's going to become dead ends. That's my personal thought for the simple reason it's one thing to automate a plant. It's one thing to automate an assembly line. It's a different element to automate the mining process where we extract the ore and we now move to somewhere new. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not identical to where we've been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's physically we've already taken out whether it's a cut of a material or a slab off a high wall or a vein out of here. We've taken that. Now we got to go somewhere else.
Yep.
The routes change, the dimensions change, the angles and the distances and all the timing, all that stuff changes. It is not an assembly line where something picks up a bag of mail, moves it, drops it, goes back, picks up another, and
Mm-hmm.
it does the same exact thing for days and weeks on end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's where like
Mm.
haulage that's fairly fixed and may only change 2 or 3 times a year. Okay, we're gonna have different points. That's one thing, but like the loader who's trying to do some ore control and some sorting and drilling and blasting and things like that, where you've got different conditions, different patterns, things like that. It adds a whole another level of complexity. And then all the geotechnical aspects of setting it all up and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll get there eventually, but that level of learning, I mean, that's really AI integration where you've
Machine
got a
learning.
machine that understands the whole mine plan and the geology and the conditions and has
Yes.
all the sensors to understand weather, all those different things. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's one thing to design a machine to do something maybe even beyond repetitive, maybe like deviations from repetitive, but to make decisions on dimensions and ore grades and things like I still think a lot of that is very, 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 very far down the road. And I maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a computer science guy, you know, and there's people who are smart and do that stuff, but I think we're still a long ways from a lot of that. I think the bigger issue that needs to be addressed, generally speaking, across most of the mining industry, we continue we were all designed as mining engineers to exploit the easiest and cheapest stuff first.
Yep.
Right? That's what we do. We continue to pursue thinner deposits, more random deposits,
Mm-hmm.
lower yields, lower grades, deeper, harder, tougher to get to. We have to move more material every day to get less product,
Yep.
whether it is in the form of ore or the material being, or in the terms of the waste or the processing.
Yeah.
I think if there's going to be low-hanging fruit, it needs to go into the ability to deal with how do you store waste? How do you tell the public, listen, we're going to have a pile of stuff heaped up here. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
have slurry impoundments. We're
Mm.
and the public, they're anti-mining.
Right.
Let me back it up. Western Europe and North America are anti-mining. Most of the rest of the world realizes we need this stuff.
Right.
But you know, Western Europe and North America believe we can just quit mining and just recycle and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the reality is we will continue to disturb more volumes of intact earth and dispose of increased volumes of waste at increasing proportions due to ever declining yields and ore grades. That is
Yeah.
a fact. The
Yeah, that's
population.
really interesting. It's something I've never thought about before that
Hmm.
way. That's a really good way to put it because regardless, more overburden, more in the waste
Yeah,
dump,
Yep.
yeah,
lower grades, more on the tailings impoundment.
Just more of
It's just
more of a
more.
footprint.
Yeah, I mean, and you were
Mm.
talking before about the thinner grades, more overburden, things like that. We're seeing now aggregate mines going underground,
mhm,
and the economics support it, and it's largely driven by that NIMBY, not in my backyard
absolutely.
attitude, where pits and quarries used to be prevalent. You could just pop them up wherever you needed them, and now they're getting pushed out further and further. And so if you have an infill site that's in a great location near a growing market, the economics may support going underground, which is wild. That's
It's no,
unthinkable 20 years
there's
ago.
the equations that go into feasibility analysis, and not just feasibility analysis of mines and mining operations, the economics of humanity. I mean, I don't want to be a philosopher here, but every day our population around the earth continues to go up.
Yep.
The standard of living of the average person continues to go up. The consumption of material that we get out of the ground goes up in proportion to economics and population.
Yep.
The amount of raw material that goes extracted is further increased by the declining ore grades associated with whatever it is we're mining. So the amount of material needed to be mined goes up, even if we were stagnant. But
Yeah.
with increased economics,
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be recessions and stuff, but the global economy will continue to go up.
Yep.
Um, And Asia and Africa are getting, and South America are getting to the point they say, hey, we want the same stuff Europe has.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We want the
Yeah.
same stuff the US has. We don't want to be third world countries anymore.
Right.
They want stuff.
Yep.
Um, Make no mistake, the economics of extracting stuff versus the value of NIMBY, I think in the next 50 years, you're going to see some major league soul searching in societies.
Hmm.
Major
Yeah.
league.
Interesting. Elaborate on that. I'm curious.
Yeah.
What do you do when someone says, we're building, we need, a zillion tons of steel. We're building bridges and an airport and buildings. And they're like, well, steel prices are up, met coal prices are up, all the, and there's no space left to dispose of all the waste coming out of all these plants and this. We can't afford to do that. Well, someone's like, yes, we can. Someone's going to the economics of how are we going to do this are going to be achieved. What we have found, as you guys have surely seen, is well, let's go get our rare earths from the Congo and sub-Saharan Africa and places where maybe they don't have any reclamation requirements, maybe they don't have any disposal requirements. Yeah, we know we might get taken over in terms of hostile foreign governments.
Yep.
Those equations, I mean, wars have been fought over minerals and gold and salt and oil and you name it. Um,
Yeah.
I
Wars
don't,
and regime change and
oh yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
that's not going to end.
Right.
It isn't going to end. But I do think that I th I think that sophisticated education populations, such as Europe and North America, I do think you're going to see at some point a jolt back to reality that we just can't be a green sing kumbaya society. We actually do need materials and we actually have to use common sense. I had the good fortune once of sitting on an airplane next to some woman. I just asked her, so what do you do? And she says, oh, I'm executive this and that of such and such for which one of the not the forestry one. Whichever one it was, the one of the super ultra left wing liberal, anti-mining everything. Sierra Club.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
And I
hmm.
said, I just looked at her, I said, honey, you're gonna have a long plane flight. And basically, I just said to her, I says, I says, I'm all for when you guys say not in my backyard, don't do it, stop doing this. I'm all for if you tell people they can't do it, but also let them know that, and let the society know that standards of living will continue to decline if we opt to not pursue these avenues.
yeah,
And her response was, we're not going to do that. I says, then you are the hypocrite,
yeah,
not me. Um, I think
yeah.
society will find out that they don't like paying, no one wants to pay $50 a gallon for gas.
No.
Yeah, there
Okay.
will
They
be a
don't want to do
breaking
that.
point.
Mm,
Yeah,
yep.
There will be breaking points. I don't know what they are.
yeah.
I don't know what they are. I mean, we're lucky. We have professional jobs and we live, but the guy and his wife who live in a, very modest home in a second world country, they don't have the luxury of going out and paying $20 a gallon for gas.
Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't
yeah,
like it. I wouldn't like it. I don't know that I would quit driving, but there's people who wouldn't be able to do their day's work if gas was $20 a gallon.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, and those are the people who'd suffer first.
yep.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah,
there's way more.
the the narrative is shifting, like you're talking about. It's starting to shift. We're seeing the signs now. Mining's in the news. They're talking about mining. I'm seeing articles that I did an interview with NPR um, earlier last year, and
Mhm.
typically I'd expect NPR to be pretty anti-mining, but I
Yep.
sat down and did it anyway, and they produced a fair, balanced article about copper specifically and copper demand and how we need more copper production in the United States was kind of the tilt. And it was pretty interesting because something I would have never imagined 5 years ago ever doing that it ever would have had that. But what's happening is the average people may not be feeling the sting yet, but Bezos and Musk and Zuckerberg, they're feeling the sting now, and they control a lot of the media and a lot of the narrative. And so they're starting to shift towards, right now it's not as much materials, but they are interested in materials, critical minerals, metals, but they need power, and they need power now. And so I'm watching as kind of the canary in the uranium mine, um,
We've been noticing this since the
the
beginning of last year.
shift towards pro-nuclear sentiment
Yeah.
is really starting to shift, and I'm seeing a lot more pro-nuclear even in the mainstream. And so that's kind of shifting, and then I see a lot following because we need, Morgan Stanley estimates we need 44 new nuclear power plants in the United States in the next 2 years. We're going to get zero,
Right.
and 44 is going to take decades to build, and it's 44 gigawatts is the shortfall. So you could do 20 really, really big plants or a lot of smaller modular reactors, things like that. But now the big banks and the big money and the big tech guys are getting behind pro energy. It'll kind of run downhill, and we'll see more pro resource development, things like that follow. So it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to shift, and I think that'll continue to go, because what's going to happen in the meantime is those titans of tech see that they need power and they need it now, but they're going to suck up all the spare capacity in the meantime, and then all of the average people are going to start to feel that sting, and then they're going to
Right.
get on board too, like, yeah, I don't like coal, but I would welcome a coal-fired power plant in my county
Yeah,
if
because
it
I can't
lowers my electrical bill
afford
20%.
electricity
Yeah,
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
so you're going
Yeah.
to see that
Um,
shift. It's starting.
and I don't have all the details in front of you, but a year ago when France told society in France, this is how much energy you can consume to be able to get to carbon zero. And they said, the average person needs to have whatever it was, a 600 square foot house, and in the summertime set your air conditioning to 85 degrees, and in the
Mm-hmm.
wintertime set your heat to 59 degrees, and people are like, this is insanity. You can't
Yeah,
Humans can't live. It's like, well, these are the choices we have to make if we're going to actually be carbon neutral.
Yeah.
Right.
People don't realize, I mean, we're not going to be carbon neutral. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
No.
No.
It's
No.
and it's absurd, and it pisses me off that society is being told that it can and will happen
Yeah.
by prominent people who are notable in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people who are
Yeah.
informed in how they're doing it. We're talking about people who have a voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. With just insane timelines, 2030,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's like 2300 maybe is more of a realistic goal.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. I mean, the reality is, in a couple hundred years, we're going to be all nuke.
Yep.
I mean, we will. I mean, but I don't know where we'll
Fusion,
get.
fission, thorium, some variety for sure.
Some in some way, shape, or form, but
Yep.
I don't know where we will get all the rest of the resources we need. I mean, this stuff about going and mining other planets. Hell, we can't even transport it from central Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there has to be some element of realism to it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and there's a
I
long ways to go on the economical extraction of materials. Like we've mined the real easy stuff. Now we're mining the less easy stuff, but we're a long ways from the hard stuff. I mean, and it's all relative, right? Some of
It
it you
is
look at,
relative.
like I look at resolution and I'm like, oh, that's hard, but there's deeper and bigger deposits that we haven't found yet.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, people say to me, how do we find stuff? And the reality is, I mean, as mining engineers and geologists, we pretty much know where everything is.
Yeah.
We know
It,
where everything is. I mean,
within it, yeah. There's a major copper deposit somewhere in this valley. There's one over here. Like
yeah,
there's elephant dung around the terrain. There's an elephant somewhere, and we may not know specifically enough to pinpoint a drill hole, but if we go out and put enough drill holes in, we'll find it.
yes, correct. The other thing that comes in is I think much of the world has been buffaloed as to things. You brought up energy, things like wind and solar. That's never going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
it's just not going to do it.
It's just the base load. I mean, even if we had it to handle the peak loads, there's no base load capacity. And so you've got to
Yeah.
pair it with giant lead acid batteries or huge lithium facilities, and those are fraught with all sorts of risk and
It's
logistical
it's just
difficulties.
not. It's just not. It's just not realistic. I mean, it's not realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what anyone thinks of it, I mean, coal and gas are cheap.
Yep.
Coal and gas are cheap. It's cheap power. Hydro's the cheapest, but nobody wants streams dammed up anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard one. Yep.
But I mean, there's still places in the world where you can do it, but most places that have done the easy and simple stuff have done it. Um, but I think that the trends going forward in mining and mining economics and the economics of raw materials and finished goods, um, much of it is contingent upon the education of society. I really do. I think that is sorely overlooked, and you can't even go to Google and type something in and get a reasonable search anymore. I mean, they shift you to the environmentally friendly answers.
Yep.
Try it. I mean, you don't get, the EIA, telling you they give you the IEA, whatever, the International Environmental Agency or
Yeah.
whichever. You don't get the answers you're looking for. You get the answers they want you to get.
Yeah.
Um, the day has to come where I don't know how we overturn that. I don't know how we overturn that. Um, but it will need to materialize because sooner or later, reality wins every battle in the long term.
Yep.
In the long term, I mean,
Hmm.
it will. I don't know how it gets accomplished, but at some point in time, somebody's going to sit there and say, you know what? I want to be able to hit the light switch and the lights come on. I
Yeah.
want to be able to turn the key to my car and my car starts. Um, I don't want my standard of living to decline. I can understand saving the economy, but I don't want my standard of living to decline. until that happens, and until people, I think until we get brownouts, and I think until we have material
Mm.
economic impacts of the lack of availability of certain materials, products, things, and it affects people's daily lives. Not for a day, but can you imagine like you get rolling brownouts for a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be fun.
No.
Wouldn't be fun, especially if you're
Yeah.
living up, I'm in Pittsburgh, it was 20 degrees this morning. I don't want to wake up and have to build a fire in my, fireplace to keep warm. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
not everybody even has that option. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Or
Correct.
they wouldn't even know how if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but I think in in the long run we're all dead, so to speak. But I mean, truly in the long run, I mean, the cost of extracting minerals goes up every day.
Yep.
Hmm.
The technological solutions will be thought of. Mankind's smart. We think stuff up. I don't know where, I have no clue where the next technology shifts will come from. There's obviously the recognition of critical minerals and things like that today, but everything's critical.
Yeah.
The reality is everything's
Well, and the
critical.
list itself changes. It's changed quite a bit. We've tried to
It's
follow it, and
extensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was added, this was removed, this was added, this was removed, and it's like they all are. I mean,
We need them all.
yeah, like potash and
Yeah.
phosphate weren't on the list, and it's like let's
Yeah.
remove those for a few months and see what happens.
Ooh.
Just move out, and all of a sudden, someone says, I can't build windows. I don't have any trona come out of
Yep.
Wyoming. I
Yeah.
can't. I don't have any glass. I don't have any glass. What
Yeah.
do you mean glass?
Yeah.
Um, people take for granted that stuff will be there,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and there's economic decisions for every milligram of stuff that you consume, be it
Yeah.
concrete or titanium or any of the rare earth crazy galliums and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you think about that. Like Trona's not on
Mm.
the list, and nobody thinks about Trona unless you've been in and around it, is mining, or you're on the board of Arm and Hammer or something. Like you don't think about Trona, and that's true. Like it's not a critical mineral. It's not on the list. Nobody thinks about it, but there's just a handful of mines in Wyoming, literally just a
Yeah.
handful, that if they were to shut down, the whole global supply of Trona is gone.
Oh, oh. Now we can make soda ash chemically, but that means triple the price of glass.
Yep.
Most people don't want to triple the price of glass.
Yeah, I mean, when they go to get their beer at the grocery store, that's
Correct. Yeah, correct. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. I'm getting a $4 surcharge on my six pack.
yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, who wants that?
yeah, yeah. You may not get windows every day, but there's glass
There's
and
glass
everything.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, correct. There's glass constantly. I mean, yeah, you buy one car every 4 years or 6 years,
yep,
but you do buy containers every day of your life.
yep,
Hmm.
So
yeah,
That's an
I,
interesting
I,
perspective. Hmm.
I love the economic aspects of every aspect of the mining industry because I I spend so much of my time trying to relate it to a judge or a jury. I do a lot of expert witness litigation support type work. And you sit there and explain something about, mining or this or that, and you kind of lose them. But when you say this is how it influences your life, obviously, you see people in a jury nod their head.
yep,
Yeah.
And it's like they recognize, they hear you, they agree with it.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We tried to do that and somewhat succeeded. There's a controversial quarry going in here in Salt Lake, Parley's Canyon. It's just up the canyon, and the county is really against it. They've tried all sorts of blocking right of ways, roads, things like that. And so the group that's putting it in, it's Granite Construction building the mine, but they put together a coalition of local aggregate producers, and we joined them, and our job was help us make the economic case for this quarry so that we can present it to the legislature. So if it doesn't go in and no new quarries are developed, what does that mean for the price of construction or building a new highway or a bridge or a road? And we were able to actually put dollar figures to increasing costs if there's no new supply, and then
Yeah.
we're pushing it out further and further. And it was huge. Like the average home built is going to cost 20% more to build if no new quarries are put in the next 5
Well,
years.
because they're also denying permits as well for expansion.
Yep, because they don't want to expand any existing quarries. They don't want any new quarries. And to them, they're like, well, it's no big deal. We'll get it from somewhere else. And it's like, well,
Now
with
all of your
bulk
costs are
commodities
going
like that, that cost doesn't scale linearly by the mile because it comes with delays and turnaround times and the potential
Yeah.
for accidents and truck
Well,
breakdowns
and more highway
on-time
traffic.
deliveries, because
Yeah.
the cost of building a high-rise in Salt Lake City is a fraction of what it is in LA because of a lot of those same factors. So being able to actually put dollars to it was really eye-opening to explain specifically, and we got a little bit of traction with it, but still it's like, yeah, so our budget needs to be higher for transportation. We can deal with that as long as it's not a quarry by my house.
And you're not wrong. I mean, people will make economic decisions like that until the day comes when a tractor trailer hauling bulk material runs into a school bus.
Yeah.
Those are the things that society notices.
Yep.
The first response is we got to quit digging this stuff out of the ground and hauling it
Yep.
around. That's the
Yep.
first response, where the reality is society still needs that stuff.
Oh yeah.
You wanted us to haul from 100 miles away instead of from over here. Um, those types of things, I mean, they have an impact on society. And much of society is being told ignore all the other impacts until it hits them between the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun with economics, is you get to look at things from so many different angles and try to catch all the angles, but you never do. Like there's factors that are way outside. Like when I did that study, I was looking at the linear cost of every extra mile is X amount for delivered material. And I sat down with a general contractor and he said, no, I see it as that extra cost is a factor, but I see drivers who are late, drivers who are stuck in traffic, drivers
Right.
who less loads per day. And they're like those factors are they don't scale linearly. Those are exponential factors, because if I have a crew who's sitting for a day because their material didn't get here, then
It's like compounding
that's
factors.
way more costly than paying an extra 10 cents a mile or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the same sort of thing. I mean, I know a guy who builds houses, and his comment was, I will no longer build a small addition to a subdivision or a handful of individual homes. I can't make the economics and the sense work of the unreliability. I'll do a development of 1,000 homes,
Yeah.
but I'm not touching all the rest of the stuff. It's again, this stuff all has an impact on society.
Yep. Yep.
But
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Well, I think that's pretty good for today. We covered a lot.
I appreciate you asking me to join. I threw out something that was
Yeah.
thought-provoking or anything. Chase me down
absolutely.
anytime.
No,
You didn't.
love to keep talking.
I will
yeah.
say I'm a bit disappointed you didn't introduce your cat.
Oh, this is Blue.
This is Blue.
Well,
I'd
I
like to
had a
bring him
cat
down
named
here for
Blue also
episodes.
that looked about the same. So
Yeah, he's funny. He doesn't like me anymore. He used to like me, but now he just likes crystals. So I've got my own cat. He comes
Yeah,
down
this is-
occasionally.
I got
This is
it.
my
Okay.
boy.
Well,
Yeah.
now that we've all been introduced, I do appreciate you having me on. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And,
Absolutely. No.
all the best. I'll see you in a week or in a year or whenever. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.